Okay, just some quick background for those who aren't familiar. This Op Asylum began as a relatively limited effort to brainstorm ideas for ways to assist Libyan foreign nationals abroad whose visas have been put in jeopardy because of Gaddafi's assets being frozen. And very quickly, um, through the generous time and effort of lots of volunteers, we have reached the conclusion and have begun to see the the methods and success we can have by making this a global effort of humanitarian crisis. There's 7,000, at least 7,000 something, Libyan students abroad right now, and they'll all certainly be subject to the same dubious fate, or at least have potential for the same dubious fate if sent back to Libya. Although some may have, of course, financial resources that others don't. I've been doing some thinking on the way to proactively affect awareness um, and contribution to this movement, such that it's unavoidable for it to be recognized, politically unavoidable. So I'm not suggesting that we establish a grid. I'm suggesting we take advantage of grid resources, uh, sort of a confederated network of designates in strategic locales. Um, Now, this is meant to be a mobile network, and you'll see how, perhaps in just a second. If not, you'll see it when I get the pictures done on the computer. Um, it is based on the same principles, actually, as the Eisenhower Interstate System, which is what the internet modeled itself after, at least when they began structuring in the United States. The architecture has the same principle of the theory behind the interstate system, which was to create this grid, this interconnected, uh, traffic-driven, compounded growth between points, such that there could never be just one section severed, or no matter which section is severed, I guess. One point is never ultimately disconnected from another. You can always get from one point to another within that network. Um, so it's designed to keep places from being cut off, which was the premise behind the internet, um, which would be great. And so this would allow us to extend it to places that are not able to avail themselves of the information that those of us in the West have such easy access to. The way it would do this would be by making the contacts and then designates that would acquire certificates and have access to the grid themselves. Therefore, all the grid's resources, I explain in the blog post, that the distinction for a grid is that all of the users not only have access to the same data resources and the same advantage of interconnectivity, but they also have access to the collective computing power, and that the non-used units within a grid have their resources allocated as it's needed. Um, this is a particular advantage in these areas for establishing a hub that can begin to grow and affect its own change. Rascal, hush. Sorry, it's my dog. Um, by giving it access to a wide and many system, many individual hardware hub network, makes it so that as long as they are not physically severed at their unit, at their own system, their own computer, physically severed from the internet, they'll always have access to a server. The server can't be brought down and then lose access. Um, I also need somebody to correct me if I'm wrong. Some of this I may be theorizing on too much. So this WebHorn, this web-born human operator responsive network, in this way it remains a fluid, sort of free agent to necessary selection within the World Wide Web as a whole. Um, as the changes naturally occur in global events, in separate locations, humanitarian needs will emerge and will subside. And in those cases, the responsive nature of being in close contact, networked electronically with the hubs, will alert us to those situations and allow us to dedicate resources and time to those areas. naturally, it's pretty amorphous right now because the network is not itself established. But this is itself actually a manner of taking advantage of artificial intelligence, human artificial intelligence collaborative evolution, sort of. There's an AI name for it. It's collaborative artificial intelligence. You have human operated selective processes, so they are monitored by sentience. People are watching to see what's happening, and we have judgment in it. But it's also selected upon by the needs of the people it's supposed to serve and its users, and therefore it gets honed by the process of selection as if it were evolving adaptively as an artificial intelligence. I think that about covers it for the basics on the grid. I'm going to be needing people to make contacts, and hopefully some to be willing to host a server or whatever and be a hub. And anybody who wants to hear what I've come up with regarding artificial intelligence and surveillance by the government, I'm going to be sharing that shortly. And I'll just go ahead and say this, like, I feel pretty confident, even though there may be secondary tangential methods that the government uses to spy on people. When you think artificial intelligence, think carnivore, but like carnivore gets cancer, or the internet gets cancer of the carnivore, some shit like that. I messed up that one. Think carnivore, this force let loose, but added to by its ability to sort of acquire, take on new agents, a la the Borg. I think that it has the potential to actually make personas that are real people that it engages with in order to gather information as a part of distributed artificial intelligence, that it can actually assume that person as a node, and they can become a part of the evolving artificial intel. But I will flesh that out more later for anybody who's interested. And I'll have more on the grids. I still need to register for some and find out more. And this will be more explicitly written out with pretty pictures and all of that for anyone who wants to critique it. Thank you.